Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, your destination to hear stories of how businesses grow and scale. I'm Robert Brill, CEO of BrillMedia.co and the host of this podcast. Now, let's jump right into this week's interview. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is David Schachter, financial advisor, endurance artist, management team at UBS Wealth Management USA. David has over 25 years of experience representing clients in the music and entertainment industry, including artists, singers, producers, etc. So David, thanks for being with us today. How did you become a financial advisor focused on the music business?
Thanks for having me, Robert. Well, when I got into the business, call it, I don't know, actually this year will be 30 years. Just by living in Los Angeles, kind of by default, you come across people, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the camera, artists. So that's kind of where it started. And then when I was really looking at the situation, I felt like I have a love of music. I love film. And I figured out what was the best way to go about doing it. And I decided, with the help of some other people that I was working with in the office at the time, was going after the gatekeepers of Hollywood or the TV, film, music business. And that's typically the entertainment business manager, which is basically a CPA that handles everything in their life, from buying cars, planes, helping invest the money, outsourcing it to us, as well as helping with their careers to some extent. But they handle every aspect of their lives, so that they are the gatekeeper to this area.
Amazing. And so you've been doing this for 25 years. Tell us about how, what was the thing that got you solidly in the business? I'm curious about that.
What probably got my investing curiosity was getting shares of stock when I was 13-year-old for my bar mitzvah back in those days. It was just, I think, intrigued my curiosity.
Nice. So you represent top artists, directors, showrunners, digital talent. What do you do for them, and how do you ensure that they remain successful?
So typically what will happen is we'll be in touch with the client's business manager, and depending on what they hire us for, sometimes we get hired to do insurance. Sometimes it's, holistic wealth management. We'll sit down, we'll review the statements, the risk tolerance, we'll come up with the appropriate models, and, try to be in lockstep with everything else they're doing. We really break it down into really three areas. Liquidity, which is, obviously making sure they have enough money to pay taxes, setting aside money for, expenses, disability. And then we also look at the second bucket, which is the longevity bucket, which is, what am I going to do with my money? How is it going to grow? Build my retirement savings, and kind of figure out, if I make $1, I can't spend 2 or 3. I got to maybe spend a third of that. And then finally, it's the legacy component, focusing on the family, making sure someone has the right life insurance, the right insurance. Maybe there's an interest in philanthropy, as well as looking at the end game. What do they want to leave behind? What kind of legacy, estate tax wise?
And so, how has the last year been for your business, for your clients? I imagine there's a ton of challenges that you and your clients have been facing. What have you done? How have you reacted? What are some of the tips that you can share with the rest of us who are not in the financial wealth business?
I would say in any crisis, there's an opportunity to excel. And I'd say in our business, the number one thing is having an opinion and effectively communicating, whether it's a prospect or a client. There's a lot of wealth managers out there. A lot of them, will set up models of set it and forget it. They don't talk to the clients more than a couple times a year. So when we saw this thing go down, first thing we're doing is obviously making sure that people have the right reserves, so they don't have to sell securities to fund their expenses and living, which we kind of run cash heavy in general. And then we reached out to people out there in the entertainment community to find out, if their advisor was talking to them, did they need any advice. And typically, back in like 2008, when business was really impacted with the crisis back then, I would say business was booming in the last 12 months, whether it's helping clients with PPP loans, building portfolios, taking advantage of all the reopening opportunities in the economy.
That's great. Have there been is there any, so artists, how have musicians and artists evolved their investment strategies over the last year when they're unable to tour? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of starting and stopping in the music business, of just listening to to a panel at South by Southwest, and it just sounds like such dire straits for the recording business and the entertainment business as a whole. Like, what do you do other than take out PPP loans?
Well, I'd say a good percentage of the clients that we work with, they're like in the top 5% of earners. So if you're a Vegas DJ, like we have a Vegas DJ, he's making $20 million a year. I mean, yeah, it sucks to see that income stop. But the monies that we have, are invested properly. And this was money the clients were never really going to need anyway. When you go down the scale to more emerging artists or, indie artists where the income stream is a little more spottier and there's a high spend. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some issues where people are cutting back. Part of what we do is sit down and say, look, if you're making $2 million a year or $3 million a year, what are your expenses? What are your goals? And are you saving the right amount of money for a rainy day? I mean, nobody foresaw this pandemic. This was what you call a black swan event.
It makes it, yeah. I mean, one of the key phrases that I love it when people admit this. It's something that certainly resonates with me. Like, no one's an expert at this. No one alive, other than maybe someone, and I don't even do the math here, like 100 years old or somewhere close there, right? No one alive has firsthand experience on how to deal with navigating a business, entertainment, anything during a global pandemic. We've luckily never had to do this in the past. So it's almost like an even playing field, right? There are no experts here. We've got just human ingenuity and opportunity. And, for those of us who are lucky to have people like you and financial advisors in our lives, we get expertise. And I think what's really interesting, it really gives us an opportunity as a whole, as a society, to form partnerships, to work together, to collaborate, which I think is a huge opportunity across the board. I think even in just general business outside of the financial world, you're just going to see a lot of collaboration moving forward, which is fantastic. Have you seen anything change with regards to your business over the last year that might be interesting to share? I mean, is this when you prove your worth?
A renewed focus on planning, making sure that based upon a current run rate of earnings and spending, what does the future look like? I mean, I've never had more financial plans done in a given year than this past year. I think people are reassessing who they have in their lives as professionals, whether it's attorneys, people in my space, making sure that for what they're paying for, what are they getting from them? What's the value add? And I think if you can orchestrate or illustrate your value add, that builds, a following.
So let's move to the song catalog market. The song catalog market has seen an incredible rise in demand, with song catalogs commanding sale prices 10 to 18 times their annual royalties compared to 8 to 13 times in earlier years, according to the Wall Street Journal. How do song catalogs, I mean, is that a primary driver of revenue for your clients? And what are the key factors behind this growth?
I mean, we have some clients that are in the process of doing that right now, and as well as prospects. I mean, I think what's driving it on the buy side is, look, interest rates are at 100-year lows. It's very cheap to get capital right now. What also is driving the valuations in these catalogs is you have all this streaming data, whether it's Spotify or whatever. So you can see hard numbers, what the different songs and artists are doing. It kind of reminds me of, growth stocks. I think people are forecasting out based upon the fact now you have TikTok, platforms like Twitch, whether it's these non-fungible tokens. These platforms didn't exist 15 years ago. So you're now going from maybe like a value style to now high growth style. And the buyers are looking to diversify away from the capital markets, whether it be stocks or bonds. And I think that's what's driving it, in addition to other countries coming online like China, Latin America, Russia, where they're starting to pay their royalties. So it's moving away from just the North American music business to more a global music business. I mean, the biggest sign out there, you saw Tencent bump their stake from Universal Music from 10% to 20%. If that isn't a sign about what they predict in the future, I don't know what is.
So so music catalogs are basically an investment for people who, it's more a question than a statement. I want to confirm this is accurate. Should music catalogs be viewed as an asset that investors are looking to make a gain on over the course of 10 or 20 years? Is that how
So I get really good dollars and cents examples. So I would say a music catalog has a lot of similar characteristics to a bond. So let's say you're an artist, Robert Brill. It didn't really cost you much to build a catalog other than maybe time, recording studios, bringing on, other people to help you produce stuff. So let's just say you were earning $500,000 a year and it's projected to do that into the future. Someone comes along like Hypnosis and says, here, Robert, here's $10 million. So that's like they purchased a 5% bond. And over the next 20 years, if they, the rates of their forecasts come true, it'll take them about 20 years to earn back the money. And then after that, if they're still correct, they're going to get another $500,000 a year. There's probably going to be some growth to it, depending on their calculations. And then they have an option to sell it or keep it or retain it. And so when interest rates are, a 10-year treasury is under 2%, if you're buying a 5% income stream, I mean, that's pretty darn attractive. And I think that's what's also driving up the multiples.
Who are some of the big name catalogs that were recently sold, and what do you have any commentary on? I think I can't remember the name, but there was a big one that I recall hearing about, and I was like, wow, this is really exciting.
What's his name? Calvin Harris. I think it was, almost 100 million, 90 million, something like that. I mean, what I've also, from the various music attorneys that I know, I mean, obviously you don't sell a catalog if you need money. You're looking to diversify your streams of earnings. So obviously you want to sell and reinvest at higher rates of return. But obviously there's a lot of variables that go into the calculation, which I would defer that to a good CPA or a music lawyer on.
So with the rise of streaming, where do musicians look at the world in terms of revenue generating activities? If you don't have a big catalog and you're streaming on Pandora and Spotify, where's the best bet? Is it still, in terms of earning revenue, I imagine it's still touring, but that's also challenging now since you can't tour.
Selling catalogs, brand partnership, licensing deals with their business manager and attorney, and then good old fashioned, saving and investing your money. I mean, there's a lot of world-class money managers out there, alternative investments, private equity things that people can invest in to grow their portfolios.
So I just read just yesterday that Kanye West is worth now $6 billion due to his Yeezy brand sneakers. So when you're looking for a financial diversification strategy, do you get involved in helping business or helping entertainers land these brand deals? How does that work out?
No, the brand deals with, maybe working with a manager like a Lucas Keller at Milk and Honey, maybe CAA. Those are the attorney, they're landing the deal. In our world, in our highly regulated world, it's, stocks, bonds, alternative investments, things that are regulated. We don't get involved in outside stuff.
Got it. So they earn the money, then they come to you. That's the point.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of long-term savings. Hey, I got to save for my kids' college. By the way, I want to have the right amount of life insurance. So if I drop tomorrow, am I going to be okay? And by the way, refer me to a good trust attorney so I can, make sure that my estate is set up if something were to happen to me, and do I need disability insurance and so forth.
Do you have a point of what is your point of view on crypto, on Bitcoin, on, Litecoin, these other assets?
Well, obviously, I would say that my limited comments would be, well, we're not able to buy that currently, but that seems to be changing. If you look in the news the other day, some of the big wirehouses are now allowing that. But it seems like big institutions are getting more involved, but it's not something that any of my clients are really getting involved with at the moment.
It's interesting. Like, I think there's so many companies right now that probably are looking at someone like Elon Musk and saying, boy, if Elon Musk is buying crypto, I wonder if our business should be buying crypto. I certainly had that question, and my financial advisor said, don't do it under the business.
I think it was kind of like the fear of missing out trade, the FOMO trade.
Sure.
I mean? Go back in history to the 14 or 1600s when tulips were $100,000. It has a lot of a reminiscence to that, but I think the jury's still out. Don't really have an opinion one way or the other.
What are the trends in your world for 2021? What does the world look like? What does the financial world look like, and what are you keeping tabs on?
We're keeping tabs on rising interest rates, inflation, making sure that the earnings growth rates are going to continue. I mean, obviously there's pent up demand for travel, spending, and people have been cooped up in California, not being able to go out to restaurants until early this week. So I think people are anxious and eager to get about their daily lives and consume.
And when you talk to, when you get involved with artists, with entertainers, what advice do you have for people who are starting out in the entertainment business in terms of the financial literacy that they might be thinking about?
A lot of people come to us through a business manager or sometimes direct from the agent. And, really to break it down real simple so they understand. I mean, I'll tell somebody, look, if you make $1, you can't spend $3 or $4. You got to put away money for a rainy day. You got to let your money work for you. Sometimes it'll take longer than you expect. And you got to have a long-term view. You got to ride the ups and you got to ride the downs. But you still got to be able to pay your bills, live, go out to dinner, pay your insurance on your home, your car lease. And we do that through a financial plan that, has simulations that a Monte Carlo analysis that'll determine the extent of you hitting your goals at some point in the future.
So it's really the fundamentals, like, as you said, if you earn $1, don't spend $4. Like,
it doesn't matter how much you make. If you do that, you're not going to have any money. But I would say the main difference between, an entertainer's earnings versus my earnings or your earnings is in entertainment, the income streams don't last forever, like in sports. It's interesting to see how certain types of music are now back in vogue that 10 years ago weren't. So you can't bank on the future. What's going on today, you can't bank on that's what it's going to be tomorrow. Businesses change. I mean, you can see that with Amazon, what they've done to certain industries.
How do you grow you're part of UBS, so certainly you have a big machine around you. How do you, I guess my first question is, when in your title you have Endurance Artist Management Team, how does that break out with regards to the larger UBS organization?
I mean, listen, we ultimately work for UBS. We use the Endurance name to market. It came from Shackleton's book, The Endurance, which was a vessel. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's all about who you know and those strong relationships that you build. So whether it's getting a referral from a client, whether it's networking backstage at a festival, it's just having really good people skills and having a good story and how you can help and be value added.
I see some, we're in the marketing and advertising business, and I see some similarities with the financial business. And the similarity to me is that anyone, especially in 2021 with the day and age of Robinhood and access to Coinbase Pro or whatever the case is, anyone can make a financial investment. In fact, anyone can make a financial investment with Fidelity or Vanguard or any organization that has some sort of self-service tool. The difference is, if you don't go to the right person, you're going to end up doing silly things like day trading. And day trading is, again, I just hear from other people who are way smarter than me. Everyone that I listen to says day trading is like a really bad idea. So, because you end up most like 70-80% of people who day trade end up losing money. But if you keep it in long term, it ends up growing. It's like you need to be able to have that financial expert in your corner to be able to make your life's money expand, bloom, grow, etc. Do you generally work on? You grow your business, it sounds like, through referral business, yes?
Referral, and then I'm actively out there, networking and reaching out to people.
How do you make a decision? Because one of the things that we want to understand on this podcast is, how do companies grow in scale? How does an individual have a business and reach the right people, communicate to the right folks? When you think about your own marketing or your own efforts to get into the community and talk to people, how do you make a decision about places to talk and where to allocate your time?
Coming up in the business, obviously in the beginning, it was a little bit of trial and error, but listen, it's about having good people skills, telling a good story, and highlighting your value proposition. And I think right now, advice is more valuable than ever. I mean, yes, you hear about all the day traders making all the money, with these various stocks that you've been following off of the Reddit stuff.
Right.
But, our focus is hiring institutional, world-class money managers that run money for pensions, endowments, that really 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they're managing a sleeve of someone's portfolio. And when you blend a handful of these managers together, blend it with fixed income, alternative investments, That's what it's all about. And if you're going to take risk in the market, you got to get rewarded. Otherwise, don't take the risk.
Right. How do one of the things that's interesting to me is finding the right people to trust. And again, very similar to the advertising business, everyone and their mother can go and buy ads on Facebook, right?
Correct.
But not everyone, their mother has 18 years or 19 years of experience doing advertising and marketing activities.
Right.
So the question is, for someone who isn't connected, right? Because I think I put that disclaimer there because I think it's interesting. The higher your income is, the higher your socioeconomic status, the more likely you are to have that referral connection.
Right.
But as people break through into that, or people who aren't breaking into that, if someone who has that financial literacy mindset and knows what they need to do, what are some of the things they need to look for to find the right financial advisor or find the right financial help in any capacity? What should a person be looking for?
Well, obviously, someone's reputation is the most important. And I think it's, like I said, once again, it's connecting with someone that someone understands your needs, not talking down to you, but willing to take the time to explain things and properly disclose everything. When you're going out and building a business, whether it's your business, my business, the law business, you find out who the key players are and you build relationships. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes it takes a long time to get people to trust you. I mean, a great example of my expansion in the last, 6 years, I went down to Nashville. I have a sister that lives there, and I've been gradually ramping that business up, but it was not an easy ramp in the beginning. It took literally, almost 4 or 5 years to get that going.
When you say ramp up in Nashville, your financial...
Yeah. We expanded the practice, in the country music space, but, showing up from Los Angeles in Nashville, it's a very insular community, and they're very careful on who they do business with. So it takes a long time to build trust. And it can't always be about business. It's got to be about connecting personally,
I mean, when I look at young people and people in their early 20s and they want an opportunity to move around and see live in different parts of the country or live in different big cities across the world, I think that's really interesting. But what you don't get, it's exactly that you don't get. I've had the benefit of living the majority of my life in Los Angeles, and I've built a network in the Los Angeles advertising and marketing community. And while the other time that I spent was in New York, and that's a great place to be for the marketing and ad business, it pays incredible dividends over the long term to be deeply rooted in at least one community, ideally a big one. Is it, when you're building your practice in Nashville, is it going to events, getting to know people? Is it literally just you need time and you need FaceTime, basically?
You need FaceTime to throw that scotch back one afternoon, tell them who you are, get to know you. They want to know about your family. That would apply pretty much anywhere, but especially down there. So it's just slower to build the trust.
When something works well, what are your, not the financial world, because the financial world, not your investment. I'm not worried about the investments because those are easy to indicate when you're doing well or not doing well, right? The numbers are up or down in a very simple sense, right? But in something that has a much softer feel, interpersonal relationships, this sort of like nebulous concept of building a business, right? Unless you're running ads and you get a lead or you get a sale directly from the ad, there's often some subjective view of what works and what doesn't work. How do you know when you're on the right track? And how long does it take you to get traction in Nashville?
I mean, it's not a perfect art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're kind of feeling it out sometimes, and sometimes you can come away with an opportunity and think this was great, and then nothing happens or people ghost you. Or other times you connect with someone instantly and boom, you're doing business. I have some people I've been going after for 5 or 6 years and staying in touch. We do stuff socially, and you just kind of wait for the chips to fall. It's kind of like, when you're at the carnival as a kid and they have that thing where you throw the quarters in and it keeps pushing the quarters until it all just falls over. it's kind of like that. You got to build up a momentum. But I think it's just it's a timing thing too.
And so you're now in year 4 of your practice in Nashville. So where are you based?
It's probably going on 6 actually.
6. So do you have any wisdom for folks who are looking to build business so if you're in year 1 or year 2 and you're trying to build your reputation in Nashville and you're doing that in the year 2019 into 2020, what do you do? A lot of Zoom calls? Is that the
I'd say right now, yeah, a lot of Zoom calls, social distant coffees, if you're allowed to do it or people are comfortable. But I think right now there's such pent-up demand for human interaction. People want to talk. People are tired of doing the same thing, getting up in the morning, rolling over 5 feet to their office, working in their sweatpants. I think people want to get out in the world.
I'll speak for myself because my wife is going stir crazy. I love being in front of my computer all day, every day. It's the best.
I've only missed 2 weeks not coming into the office the last year because we're considered essential. Someone supposedly had COVID, so they closed it for 2 weeks. Other than that, I come in every day. I like to keep it separate. It's easier to work from the office.
Very cool. All right, David Schachter, financial advisor, endurance artist management team at UBS Wealth. How can people reach out to you?
My email or telephone.
Okay. You wanna share what that is?
Sure. 310-772-8080. My email is david.schachter@ubs.com.
Awesome. David Schachter, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.